Hey all, and welcome to this week's episode of the Mike Muldoon podcast. Hope you're having a great week. Thanks again for tuning in. Really appreciate you. So make sure that, you're subscribed down there on the Apple, the Spotify, wherever you're listening. I really do appreciate it. And, share it with your friends. We're over 80 episodes. It has been my goal to do it every week, no matter what, when I'm traveling, whatever it is. And I have been doing some traveling, and when I do it, I still figure out a way to get my podcast in because I want to make sure that I just committed to this. So every week I'm in it. So here I am. Today, it was really interesting. The other day I was sitting just looking at my phone, and probably bad thing to do, but I was looking at my phone and I was just thinking about I got a message here. I got a message here. I got a message here. And I was like, it's insane to think, right? Like 25 years ago, there was only a handful of ways to communicate with people. If you really think about it, right? It was like in person, on the phone, or you sent like a mail or a letter, right? I mean, and then, email came and it was like, okay, now we have another way to communicate. And then, instant messaging came. Oh, that was even faster. Then we had text, we had video calling. Then again, every social media platform, and the list goes on and on and on. And I'm sure all my friends and colleagues that work in a corporate environment are really excited about the addition of Teams and Slacks and stuff like that, where you're just constantly bombarded all day long with messages, right? People need to get in touch with you. They need to communicate with you. But it's kind of crazy, right? Because in today's digital age where technology has made us more interconnected than ever before, it may seem paradoxical that loneliness and isolation, they remain prevalent issues, right? Despite the ability to connect with others at the touch of a button, many people still experience profound feelings of loneliness. And today, I want to talk about, why does this paradox exist, and how does the digital age contribute to the feelings of isolation, and what impact is it really having on our mental health? And more importantly, what can we do about it? The thing about loneliness, it doesn't discriminate. It can affect anyone, regardless of age, gender, even, your social status. Whether you're surrounded by people or spending most of your time alone, loneliness, it stems from a perceived lack of a meaningful connection, right? So in today's hyper-connected world, social media platforms and messaging apps, right? They offer us a constant stream of communication. We can get in touch with anybody almost at any time we need to. However, that quantity does not always equate to the quality. See, surface level interactions and the curated highlight reels we see online, they can kind of leave us feeling even more isolated than ever. And moreover, the digital realm often blurs the lines between solitude and loneliness. And while solitude can be a nourishing experience that allows for, self-reflection and personal growth. And, I'm somebody who really doesn't mind being by themselves a lot of times and being disconnected from people. But loneliness, it's a very distressing counterpart, right? It's characterized by this sense of emptiness and disconnection. And research has shown that chronic loneliness can take a severe toll on our mental health. It's associated with increased risk of obviously depression, anxiety, and even physical health issues such as heart disease and even a weakened immune function, which to me really just ties back to, again, anxiety, which seems to be the root of a lot of the challenges that we might suffer from, especially even in terms of physical elements. So what do we do? How do we combat? Technology is not going away. We're all not going to go knock on our neighbors' doors like we used to. I try to tell my kids sometimes how it's really wild when I think about my childhood and how our connections, these bonds we had, especially in the neighborhood I grew up. But, nowadays it's really interesting, and parents could probably relate to this. What are these play dates, right? Kids are always asking for play dates. When I was a kid, my parents never took me on a play date, meaning, my parents never set up a time with another kid that didn't live in my neighborhood, drove me over there and we played. I mean, sure, my parents had friends who had kids and sometimes we get together, but most of the time my play dates were out in front of my house with all the kids in the neighborhood. And, we had this sort of, this is what we did. But those days aren't coming back. We're not going to just start knocking on our neighbors' doors and hey, you want to come out and talk? Technology is not going away. We're still going to, communicate using our devices at times. But really, what can we do now to sort of combat this loneliness and at least cultivate more meaningful connections? Again, in this driven, digitally driven world that we're living in. And the number one thing is prioritizing that quality over the quantity, right? I even have to have this conversation with my daughter sometimes. She hears the term followers, and she's on this little website thing. It's a kids thing, and they just draw pictures or whatever, and people can like and follow your work, and they can't be negative and they can't be rude to anybody. But I have to have this conversation with her, right? Followers and connections, instead of focusing on these number of, again, followers you have, or these non-meaningful connections. I have to always talk to her about, it's more important to invest your time and energy in nurturing, a few of those deep, meaningful relationships, the real relationships, right? The real connections that are not tied to, followers. The other thing is to, if you're somebody who's relying on technology, be mindful of how you're using it. Be mindful of your digital consumption. Try to set boundaries around screen time. And instead of saying, I'm going to call this person, I'm going to Facebook this person, I'm going to, like their Instagram, or try to, figure out a way. And I know it's hard because now we live in a world too, where our friends who used to live in our neighborhoods and around us all the time, or within a vicinity, friends are scattered. Right, they're scattered around the world now. I've got friends all over the world. It's a little bit hard to get face to face, but you can do that with Zoom. You can do that with FaceTime. You can see the person and try to interact more on a deeper level. Obviously, if you can get together, that's always better. But if you can't, you can interact on a deeper level, and just instead of like sending off these tests like, "Hey, how you doing? How you doing?" It's not gonna cut it, right? And if you have to, just get involved, community, get out in the world. I always tell people, if you're feeling down, you're feeling lost, you don't know where to go, get out in the world, immerse yourself in the world. If you're somebody who's feeling really lonely right now or depressed or sad, and, go out and engage in activities, join groups. You have an interest. Nowadays, there is a group for every interest out there. It could be a hobby club or a volunteer organization or an online community, a Rotary club, a Toastmasters club, whatever it is. Finding like-minded individuals can offer a sense of a sense of belonging, and at least maybe it'll just give you something to do weekly or a couple of times a week to meet up with people and interact in more of a, what I like to say, the old school way. I still prefer interactions with people. I'm more than happy to have people around or go out and see people. That to me is I always find that more fulfilling than, just being on a phone. Some of my favorite memories is every summer I get together with my buddies down in the Hilton Head area. And I have to tell you, even though we're in this beautiful place, we're on this golf course, the house is beautiful that we're always in, and it's an amazing thing, and there's food and everything else. My favorite time of it all is just sitting around this table on one of the decks that are there and just talking with my friends, just catching up. We could do it for hours, just hanging out. To me, that I enjoy that. I can really feel the power in that connection. So look, I'm not saying you can't feel lonely. I'm not saying, from time to time, you're going to feel lonely. It's okay. It's a normal human experience. However, if these feelings of loneliness continually persist and start impacting your well-being, then, I would say, reach out to somebody, get in front of somebody. And if it's really causing problems in your life, find some support from friends or family, and if you need to, mental health professionals. There's no stigma on that anymore, right? There's no stigma anymore. Maybe a generation, 2 generations ago, when somebody had to go see a shrink or a psychologist or something, people kept it hush hush. But nowadays, somebody telling you they just came from their doctor shrink appointment or the psychologist appointment or the therapist appointment is no more different than just told you they just ordered a latte and want to know if you have one. Meaning, it's just very accepted. It is what it is. There's a lot going on in the world. We got to deal with a lot of things, and sometimes we need other people to help us out. So listen. In conclusion, while technology is undoubtedly reshaped the way we connect with others, it is essential to recognize that the importance of the meaningful and authentic relationships in combating the loneliness and nurturing our mental health. Prioritize quality connections, people, and practice mindful technology. Like I said, sometimes maybe we're going to pick up the phone and call them. We're going to get together with them. We'll FaceTime, we'll Zoom, whatever it is, something than just besides just kind of hiding behind like a text message or a message. Again, technology is not going away, but if we can do this, we can navigate the complexities of our loneliness in our connected world and cultivate at least a sense of belonging and fulfillment. All right. So if you know somebody out there who might be feeling lonely, instead of maybe just sending them that text message, if you can, why don't you stop by? Why don't you pick them up? Why don't you take them out? And if you are feeling that way, maybe you reach out to somebody, see if they want to get together. Instead of just having a full-blown, small novel of text messages back and forth, okay? In this world right now where things are chaotic, let's just continue to support each other, all right? Let's start working towards a greater connection and well-being for everybody, right? It's about connections. It's not about followers. All right, everybody, that's what I've got for you today. I hope you have a great weekend. I am actually probably just home right now. By the time you all listen to this, I've actually been traveling overseas, which was nice. Like taking the kids places. We're taking them some different places. So by the time you got this one, I think I'm just getting back. I had to record in advance, though I have recorded at times when I have traveled. I've recorded a few when we were in England last summer, which was great. But I'm going to travel late this time. I'm not going to bring everything. So anyway, look, I'm moving. I'm done. I'm talking too much here at this point. Listen, I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for listening. Please share it with your friends. Make sure if you can, I'm 80 episodes in. Like I said, I'm not going anywhere. If you can just like it on the Apple, like it on the Spotify, subscribe to it, share it with your friends. If you know somebody right now is going through this, maybe you just share this episode. But most importantly, tell them you're not committing a lot of time. I mean, at this point, we're looking at an episode about 10 minutes. I don't think besides my interviews, which I've had a couple here and I've got a couple more coming down the pipeline. I tend to keep these fast, short, to the point. I want them, what I like to say, in commutable. A commutable time frame, which means you get in your car, you turn it on. By the time you get to work, even if you live down the street, you've heard the whole podcast. All right, other than that, as always, I got nothing but love for you.